All right, December is here, which means Christmas is in full swing. I hope that you've had an opportunity to decorate your house. Our church is decorated. My house is in the process of being decorated. I love Christmas trees, and yet kind of an odd tradition, isn't it? You go outside into the forest, you hike around, you chop down a tree you want, you kill it, but then you bring it inside and kind of revive it in water for a couple weeks or a month. But then you decorate it, you deck it out. It looks amazing. Nothing like sitting under a dark tree. Nothing like sitting under a lit up tree on a dark night with people you love. Now, Christmas is great, but to change gears a bit, have you ever had to go somewhere where you're just like, I don't want to go there, and you're just like totally against your wishes, but you know you have to go anyway? There's lots of things that I've had to go to that I'm just like, oh, I can't believe I have to go there. But what is the thing that gets you through something like that? The thing that gets you through is the fact that it's gonna have an end. You know that this isn't a forever kind of a thing. And so I wanna suggest that there's a beginning and a middle and an end to all kinds of stories. And we get this formula, beginning, middle, and end, actually from the Bible. In the Bible, there's a beginning and a middle and an end. And almost every story follows this. For instance, take the story of Shrek. All right, in the beginning of the story, Shrek is in his swamp. Life is amazing. Nobody bothers him. He's got an awesome routine. Then what happens? All these fairy tale characters get kicked out from Lord Farquaad's kingdom and just bug the snot out of him. And so he goes on this quest to rid these animals, and he goes on this whole journey. And of course, the story ends with him getting the princess, and it ends happily ever after. That is, unless if you watch the next 5 Shrek videos. Now, the plot I want to talk about today in the Bible is a plot of 3 trees. One at the start, one in the middle, and one at the end. In Genesis chapter 2, we're introduced to the tree of life. Okay, the tree of life is symbolic. God is giving this as a sign. He's sustaining humanity. He wants to live with humanity. He's gracious. He's giving them a gift. But the fact is, when humanity rebelled, they decided to go their own way. God banished them from the garden where they had access to the tree of life. And this brought about death. Sin brought about death because we lost access to the life-giving God, which comes to the middle of the story, because the whole rest of the Bible is about God trying to get humanity back to the tree of life and in a place where he can properly do that. And this tree is the cross, right at the middle of the Bible, at the middle of human history, the cross where Jesus hung on and died. And the cross is, of course, a tree of death. It's an execution instrument, and it's meant to show us how horrific, how awful sin is. But it also points to 4 things that I want to talk about in a moment. And the tree of death has to come first. The sacrifice has to come first before we can get back to the tree of life, which is at the end of the Bible in Revelation chapter 22. This tree of life planted in the water of life flowing from God's throne, where we have this eternal awesomeness, happily ever after with God, our Creator, whom we have been created and designed to live with and for and be in relationship with. Now, back to the cross, the tree of death. What did it accomplish? I want to talk about 4 things, and these 4 things are actually right in line with Christmas and the Advent series that we usually go through in terms of love, peace, joy, and hope. All right, so love. The cross was the ultimate demonstration of God's love for us, and showed that he would do anything to get us back to him. Secondly, the cross accomplished peace. Due to Jesus' death and resurrection, we can now have peace with God, peace with our Creator. And another part of that is on the cross, Jesus won a great victory over the power of sin, death, evil, and Satan. So it's about peace for us, and it's also about a decisive victory in history against the spiritual powers of evil and darkness. And because of that, we can have joy. Now, joy is bigger than happiness, all right? Happiness is based on our circumstances, but joy goes above and beyond our circumstances. And remember earlier we talked about going somewhere and having to endure something that we didn't want to endure? Well, we can get through that by knowing the end. And so joy and hope are actually linked together. Joy, we know that we have Jesus. We know that we have salvation. Psalm 51:12 says, God, restore me to the joy of your salvation. Not the joy of our circumstances or in a good life, but the joy of our salvation and being saved and rescued by God. And the hope is the eternal life back to the end of Revelation 22 when we get to be in God's presence, when the whole world is brought back to rights, where there's no more death, killing, selfishness, evil, no more COVID. It's going to be amazing. And that's what we're going for. And so this is the meaning of cross and also what we look forward to at the celebration of Christmas as God comes to dwell with us in baby Jesus. Bless you all.